Oscar Sierra, Sierra Botanica and Collaborative Medicine. I'm going to talk about adaptogens today, and there's a lot to be said on the subject, and many people have said a lot about it. Most notably, there's some folks that have written books about it. My favorites are probably Donnie Yance's book here, Adaptogens in Medical Herbalism, and David Winston also has a lot to say on the subject. We're not going to go through all of it. We're going to keep it real simple. And basically, adaptogens are a class of herbs mostly, and I say herbs loosely because there are some fungi, such as reishi or cordyceps, that are also included in this category. But anyway, there are some things that typically are ingested or taken sometimes as maybe a tea or infusion, maybe a decoction. A decoction, by the way, is when you take fire, some heating element, and you boil this up for a long time to really extract more out of it. Or we talked about tinctures before. This is what a tincture looks like. It's herbs and alcohol typically. You could theoretically get it as a glycerite as well, which instead of water or alcohol, you use glycerin. And in theory, you could probably get it topically as well, especially if you maybe had a little liposomal concentration of it that is delivered via the skin. In theory, maybe you could also do it by inhaling some of these things. Black spruce comes to mind. Peter Holmes talks a little bit about using these essential oils for kind of weaning off of coffee and giving you a little bit of a boost. Suffice it to say, adaptogens do a lot for you. By definition, they target or influence more than one system at a time. So by system, I mean you have an immune system, you have a cardiovascular system, you have a digestive system, you have a musculoskeletal system, you have an endocrine system that controls your hormones and that influences your thyroid and male and female hormones. That's the endocrine system. So by definition, an adaptogen, say a ginseng, is going to affect your endocrine system. For example, if you have high blood sugar, that is an insulin issue as well. Insulin is a hormone. Ginseng can lower the blood sugar. And if you have low blood sugar, say you start getting dizzy or lightheaded or irritable if you miss a meal, ginseng can help buffer that and help it keep from dropping. So that is one example. There are many such examples in the adaptogen realm. I mentioned reishi and cordyceps are fungal friends. Adaptogens like ginseng I mentioned with its saponins, and we use the leaves here, a little bit less expensive than the roots, but both work. Astragalus or huang qi is one that I have most of my cancer patients on. It has a relatively mild flavor, and you can kind of sneak it into some soups or some teas, use it as a base for maybe some lemonade. So the short story is that they target different systems. So it could, for example, astragalus huang qi, which I mentioned, can target and help boost, if you will. That's a kind of a gross reductionistic term, but let's say help modulate your immune system and immune response to where you might actually recognize a pathogen like a virus or a cold, especially if you're immunocompromised because you're going through chemo or radiation or some immunodeficiency like AIDS. So that's a very important one. So your immune system and say your nervous system, like the ginseng we mentioned, also kind of helps calm the mind. That would be your central nervous system. So by definition, they target more than one system at a time. By definition, they are tropho-restorative, which is a fancy word of basically saying they help bring balance to that organ, the kidneys, the heart, the circulation. By definition, they are bivalent, which means that I made the example earlier of ginseng, which in one example can help lower your blood sugar and help temper those spikes. And another example can help keep it up and keep it from going down. Another example is cortisol and your stress hormones, epinephrine, norepinephrine, and your corticosteroids. So licorice, ginseng, rhodiola, a lot of these are the kind of things that you might see in an adaptogen mix. This particular one is a relatively neutral temperature one. There are other more warming ones like that include cordyceps and the power adapt version of the same thing. Again, you can take them as a tea, you can take them as a tincture. It is really something that pretty much everyone should be doing on a daily basis simply because you're not living in Shangri-La. You probably have a stressful job, maybe you have a stressful home life, maybe none of those things are stressful, but you simply have to drive to and from those things, in which case, if you're like me in Atlanta, it's a beautiful day here and we're seeing trees, but you know, traffic happens. So adaptogens, really everyone should be on them. and sometimes they taste good, sometimes they don't. Talk to your local herbalist, talk to me about which adaptogens or adaptogen mixes might be right for you. We can help find one that fits your condition, your environment, and your constitution. Adaptogens are awesome. I'm Oscar Sierra, Sierra Botanica and Collaborative Medicine. Check out Adaptogens.